Welcome to another episode of Philosophy and Critical Thinking. In the previous video, we talked about Descartes' first meditation. And in this video, we're going to talk about Descartes' second meditation. The two great intellectual achievements in the second meditation are what are called the cogito argument and Descartes' argument for substance dualism, or the view that there are minds and then there's matter in the universe. And minds and matter are two distinct things. Let's start with the cogito argument. So remember from the first meditation that what Descartes is trying to do is establish a secure foundation for knowledge. And he's argued that he cannot put sensory beliefs in the foundation. The foundational beliefs that we have for our knowledge can't come from empirical sources, can't come from the senses. So what is the cogito argument? Descartes arrives at what he takes to be a truth that is certain and indubitable. It's a self-evident truth. And the truth that he has in mind is that he exists. So this argument necessarily has to be delivered from the first person perspective in order to work. And the reason for that is that I can't know that you exist outside of my own mind in the way that I can know that I exist, according to Descartes' cogito argument. And the reason for that is that if I think, and doubting is a form of thinking, so I could try to doubt my own existence, I can't successfully do it, right? I can try to doubt my own existence, but I can't successfully doubt my own existence. If I were being deceived, say, by an evil demon, then I would have to exist in order to be deceived. If I were dreaming, I would have to exist in order to be having a dream. I can't imagine any scenario where I am being deceived and yet it's not true that I exist. So the premises of the cogito argument are: A, it is indubitable and self-evident that if I think, then I would have to exist. B, it is indubitable and self-evident that I think. And so the conclusion that we can draw: C, it is indubitable and self-evident that I exist. Hence the catchy slogan, I think, therefore I am. Right? Also a popular song by Billie Eilish. All right, how extensive is this proof that Descartes has offered us, this cogito proof? Does it prove to you that I exist or that Descartes exists? No. Remember, the argument is essentially first personal, and it's an argument that only works when you, the first person, are reciting the premises and the conclusion. In that moment that you recite the premises and the conclusion, you can know with certainty that you exist because you think. All right, so this is an intellectual achievement, right? To arrive at a truth that is self-evident and cannot be doubted. One problem for Descartes' view at this point is, well, yeah, but what else could we know? In addition to, I think, therefore I am, is there anything past that that I could know? Maybe that is an admissible foundational bit of knowledge, but is there any sense in which I can use deductive principles of reasoning to draw interesting conclusions from I think, therefore I am? And it's hard to see how you could draw any interesting conclusions. If all I can know is I think, therefore I am, and that's the limit of my knowledge, that's kind of a sad position to be in, isn't it? So what about Descartes' argument for substance dualism? Again, substance dualism is the view that there are minds and there is matter in the universe. And minds and matter are distinct things. So in the case of your existence, we could say that there's your mind and then there's your body, and these are two different things. That's what substance dualism says. Descartes' argument for substance dualism appeals to the same kind of methodology, the method of doubt that he's been using, that he uses in the cogito argument. He's going to use it again here. So here's his argument. He says, I can doubt that I am a thing with a body, surrounded by a material world. After all, maybe I'm being deceived by an evil demon into believing that I have a body or that there's a material world around me. So I can doubt that I have a body and that I'm surrounded by a material world. I cannot doubt that I am a thing that thinks, a thing that doubts, affirms, has ideas. It follows from those premises that I am not the same thing as my body. If I can doubt that I have a body, but I cannot doubt that I am a thing that thinks, then I must not be the same thing as my body. Okay, so both the cogito argument and Descartes' argument for substance dualism apply Descartes' method of doubt to draw some interesting conclusions about whether he exists and what sort of thing he must be, namely a thinking thing. All right, let's use Descartes' method, and this is a form of what we've been referring to as the rationalist method. So just applying thinking or intellect to try to acquire knowledge of reality rather than relying on the senses. Let's apply this rationalist method to the piece of wax example that Descartes discusses in the second meditation. Take the piece of wax. Now, Descartes is allegedly sitting in his nightgown next to a fire. He picks up a piece of wax and he smells it, he tastes it, he observes its texture with his fingers. And we could ask a question about what are the essential features of the wax and what are the accidental features of the wax, where the difference there is that an essential feature of a thing is a feature of the thing that it cannot lose without ceasing to be the thing that it is. And an accidental feature of a thing is a feature of a thing that could be lost, and yet the thing remains the kind of thing that it is. So take you. You could cut your hair, you could clip your nails, you could paint your nails, you could dye your hair a different color, and you would still be you. So your hair color, or the fact that you have hair, your fingernails, the fact that they have paint on them or not, these are accidental features of you. Whereas something like your mind is essential to you. You could not lose your mind and still be you, arguably. Right? So if everything just sort of went dark inside of your head and you didn't have any more experiences, we would probably say that you were no longer there anymore. We're going to get into this issue of what really makes us us when we talk about what personal identity is in a few videos. But for now, it seems totally fine to say that if you were to lose your mind and were no longer able to think or perceive or anything like that, that you would be gone. So you are essentially, to reiterate Descartes' point, a thinking thing. All right, so we have the wax, and Descartes sitting in his chair, and he puts the wax near the fire, and when he does that, he notices that the sensory properties of the wax change. So it changes color, it changes texture. It was firm before it was near the fire, and now that it's closer to the fire, it's starting to melt, it's becoming softer. He says that whereas it smelled like flowers when he had it away from the fire. Now the smell has changed too. So the sensory properties of the wax change from one moment to the next. However, the wax is still the same piece of wax. Now, if the sensory properties of the wax are changing, but this is still the same piece of wax, then there must be some essential property to the wax that doesn't change, that explains why this is the same piece of wax. That essential property of the thing can't be any of the sensory properties, like the way it looks, or the way it smells, or the way it tastes, or the way it feels, because those are the properties that are constantly changing. And in order to retain its identity, there must be some underlying essential property that it keeps over time. All right, so once we've stripped the wax of all of the properties we perceive it to have, we can ask, what is left that we grasp of the wax? Not through the senses, but rather through our intellect. And here Descartes says, it's just the fact that this wax is what he calls an extended thing, a thing extended in space. So it's matter. It's essentially a kind of material thing. But past that, we can't really say anything further about this piece of wax, what it is essentially. We can say, though, that the wax is not what it seems to be to the senses, according to Descartes' rationalist method here. So you can use the rationalist method with respect to the cogito argument, the argument for substance dualism, and this argument about what we can potentially know about things in our environment. So if we took for granted that there are things in our environment, we could ask, what is the nature of these things? Is the nature of these things constituted by the way they look and smell and feel and so on? Or is the nature of these things something different? All right, I'd be curious to know what you all think of Descartes' arguments in this second meditation. Feel free to leave comments below if you have any.